All right, welcome to this session today, study season 2024, a new week and new sessions. We have a special program that is going to start today, which is On-Chain Analytics for Token Engineers 101. Become a do your own research Maxxi from scratch using ChatGPT. Roderick McKinley is here, one of the fellowship candidates, so keep in mind this is one of the candidate tracks for receiving the Token Engineering Fellowship Prize. For the next 2 weeks, we'll focus on the learning program Roderick prepared for us, and I'm super glad to have you on board, Roderick. On-chain analytics, super important topics for token engineers to understand transactions, to understand behavior, to make sense of an existing token systems, and many other questions we can answer by looking at on-chain data. Thank you so much for preparing this program. In case you are watching us via LinkedIn or YouTube, you can still register for the study season. The live track registrations are still open, so you just go to tokenengineering.net and register. Then you'll get access to all the learning material available, the YouTube recordings of the sessions, the homework material, any additional reads. Roderick shared great links to prepare for the sessions. That's all available in the study season information hub. Again, register at tokenengineering.net to get access. And before we start, some more remarks, just in case you are following study season for a while, or also if you just dropped by today, we are already in the exams week, meaning never mind, track 5, you are good. We just start today, but in total, we have 8 tracks, and we started with first deadlines for submitting case studies and first exams this week. You will receive and have all information per live track that you need to submit a homework or pass an exam in the live track details. And let me just share the information hub as well so that you can take a look. You'll find it on our Notions, so the study season information hub. Again, access once registered via tokenengineering.net. And there you'll find all 8 live tracks here. And we are at the moment in live track 5, On-Chain Analytics for Token Engineers 101 with Roderick McKinley. And once you click on this live track, you'll find all information about the session dates, where to join. We are in Zoom calls usually to collaborate. Of course, you can also watch the YouTube stream or the Twitter stream. You'll find the session recordings and more details about this track. And here we publish also important deadlines for exams. And then you'll be eligible for minting an NFT proof of your knowledge at the end of the study season. Just wanted to let you know. So keep an eye on the messages on Discord or at the study season to not miss any important dates around exams. But once again, track 5, we are just starting. This is the first session, and there'll be 3 more. Today, we'll have some logistics, so to give you a full picture of what we plan in this course. Then we have a first session with the first learning and unit with Roderick, and then at the very end, we can continue the discussion and conversations and work in our Discord. So sync meetings, like this meeting today, is going to take place now today, May 27th. The next second session is May 30th, half an hour later. Then the third session is going to take place next Monday, same time, and next Thursday, the 4th session. Okay, so this is an overview, but again, you'll find all these dates at the study season information hub. As I mentioned, async discussion will take place on Discord. The purpose of the study season is to meet each other in the token engineering community, meet fellow students, make great connections, and collaborate. And the Discord is our place to meet over the week, to collaborate, to share links, to start conversations. And I'll guide you to Discord later in the sessions. And there will be a homework assignment so that you can prove your knowledge acquired in this live track at the very end on June 6th. Some words about our culture in case you're new. We like to encourage you in the study season track to be proactive. Reach out to fellow students on the Discord. Switch on your mic in this session in case you need a clarification or if you have a question, or drop a note to the chat. This is very welcome. There are no stupid questions. We are all on a steep learning journey here, and that's why we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions you might have. Also, feel free to schedule additional learning sessions with fellow students in your time zone. We know that we have students from all across the globe. Not all of you might be able to follow the learning sessions live. That's why we make recordings available. And that's why it makes total sense if you'd like to spin up a discussion round with people in your time zone, do that. You can do this on Discord or whatever channel you prefer. And again, ask questions, be mindful, of course, when asking for support. I mean, maybe not let others write your case study submission, but any other questions yeah, I need support are very welcome. We know that we have people with different skills. Some might be fluent in on-chain analytics already, and some might be new here. And that's why we are happy to see collaboration and mutual support take part. Don't forget, if anyone supported you, give a thank you, praise this person on Twitter or on Discord, and let others know that you are glad to have this support. And whenever you have a chance in the future, the token engineering is still a very new field. Every contribution really matters and has an impact. And if you're able to give back to a new talent or to a project or anybody else in the token engineering community, do it. There were so many great collaborations that started in one of the Token Engineering Academy learning sessions. Okay, earning and minting NFTs. As I mentioned, TE Academy distributes NFTs for those who have proven their knowledge and have passed an exam at the end of the study season. Now, in this live track, you'll be eligible to mint an NFT as proof of knowledge in this track by submitting a homework. And we'll give more information on what the actual assignment is and how much time you have. So no worries, you'll get everything, but you have to submit own work. Then Roderick will review and you'll be informed if you've passed the criteria and are eligible to receive an NFT. Some first deadlines. So the homework assignment deadline is June 6th. So this is the day of the last lecture. Then we'll discuss submissions the same day once we got a first picture of what submissions we have. And then Roderick will have some additional time to review the submissions and to give you a yes or no for being eligible on June 10th, okay? So just to let you know, the steps are learn, come to the live tracks, join the sessions, work, follow the program, participate actively, and then submit your homework. All right. Let's get to the introduction rounds. I'm sure you are keen to learn more about Roderick and what brought him to token engineering, and vice versa. Let's also give him the chance to meet the students in the room. Let's start with you, Roderick. Please introduce yourself and yeah, give us an overview of what you have been doing so far.
Thank you, Angela. I've saved some of the introduction for the presentation, detailing my background a little bit. But essentially, I ended up working in blockchain and crypto during the pandemic through a series of unexpected events. And I was very I discovered a kind of intellectual passion and enthusiasm for it. Once I saw how it intersected with a whole bunch of things that I was studying at university related to economics. I was drawn to economics to start off with because I cared about the human condition. I wanted to know, why are there poor people? Why are we trashing the planet? What can we do to make things better? The very strange thing is that, traditional economics just convinces you, or has all these arguments to say, well, it's for all these reasons and we can't make it better, and we're going to grade you on an exam, checking that you agree that, we can't make it better. And then suddenly, once I started looking at this blockchain technology and having that kind of background to understand it in perhaps a more fundamental or theoretical way, I became very excited that a lot of these things that we'd been told were impossible may actually have some solutions ahead. So I drank the Kool-Aid, and for all the glamour of fantastic riches, I am also just really excited about this technology and what it can do for us. So it's been a quiet couple of years. I've mostly been working on myself. But one of the skills that I decided to upgrade with was teaching myself on-chain analytics, so I could come up with real data-based perspectives on important issues concerning financial management that I'd seen a lot of startups struggle with. And then the ChatGPT was just around, and it just absolutely blew my mind how quickly I was able to make progress. And for the first time, like, your ability to think critically as an analyst has its own value, independently of any coding chops you have. So you can really lean into your critical thinking skills, and ChatGPT can do a lot of work sort of filling the gaps if you're new to coding. And I want to share all that with you today. So it's a little about me.
Cool. Thanks for sharing, Roderick. And I guess there's more to share. But now I'm keen to hear what you guys brought to the session today. By the way, I'm Angela, founder of the Token Engineering Academy, in case you have not seen me in any other of the sessions. But let's get to know each other. I would love to, if you are open to introduce yourself, to just switch on your mic and maybe also switch on your camera if you like, and then just say some words about yourself. What brought you to the study season? What background you have maybe? How familiar you are with on-chain data analytics and generally data science maybe. And the first person I would want to ask is KG. Hello, KG.
Hello, can you hear
switch on
me?
your mind. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yeah, my name is Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm just interested in blockchain. I was going through the token 1 and token 2 modules, and I heard there was a study season program. Signed up, give it a go at the modules and the tracks.
Awesome, glad to hear. Is there any what's your background? So what
my background is in economics, and as it concerns data analytics, I'm not really conversant on it, but I did the prerequisites like learning SQL and all of that.
Thumbs up. Thank you so much. Well prepared. Glad to hear it. Thank you for now. Let's continue with the introduction round. Wen. Hello, Wen. Welcome to the session.
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Wen. I joined crypto space quite late, so I guess I'm a newbie. I also joined during the pandemic area as a product manager for a crypto exchange. But what I did mostly is around the trading side. I've been looking at some of the Web3 project myself, and I see various terms coming up from reading up the news, like those metrics and those stats that people are often quoted. But I also found there are a lot of nuances between those metrics per se. And sometimes I find it's not necessarily like the better the metrics are, the better quality the project itself is. So I'm kind of like like a systematic way to look at all those metrics associated with those Web3 projects. So I think that's something I would be keen to learn from this course. I'm very glad to be here and yeah, enjoying everybody with this session.
Thanks, Wen. That's awesome to hear. I don't know, Roderick, if you want to give some first comments on metrics and numbers go up.
I was smiling about that because I was drafting the session for session 2, and that's kind of one of the crucial things where we're going to touch on a little briefly is that one of the skills that you should gain with on-chain analytics is to understand metrics better. If it's because you can have data that's sort of like low level, and then you go to DeFi Llama and they call it on-chain analytics, but they've done something with the data. And maybe they're calling it total value locked, but they've made a couple of assumptions in there, and you don't really know. If you're just looking at it naively, you don't know what those are. So I would say this course is more has a more of a beginner's orientation. It's going to give you a skill set that can allow you to create your own measures and your own analytics, but it won't go full on and giving you a systematic approach to evaluating projects. And the other reason why I was smiling is that I don't think, even in conventional finance, there's rarely a single frame. There's rarely a single metric that says it all. And it's all about context. So it may feel frustrating, but that is sort of part of the art, and you will still be relying on your gut to some extent. You look at all the metrics, you look at soft factors like the team, more intangible things like what's happening on the chain, how quickly it's growing. There's never going to be a way to make this entirely mechanical. So yeah, I hope you still find something interesting in the lectures ahead.
Cool, thanks, Roderick. And I would add, at the end of this course, you will feel much more confident in questioning numbers. We might not provide you the 10 metrics that will answer all your questions, but you can definitely start asking questions about the most popular numbers go up metrics in crypto. All right. Next one on stage to give a brief introduction, Ark. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mark. I've been in crypto since late 2017. I'm currently working as a smart contract developer on an alternative layer 1. And I first discovered TE Academy during last summer and started taking the courses in the fall. And I'm here today at this study session because I wanted to learn more about technical skills that are more chain agnostic. And so I thought on-chain analytics using SQL and Dune would be a great skill to pick up.
100%. Thanks for joining today, Ark. All right, next one to in the introduction round, Ilya.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'd like to switch my camera on. My previous background is connected with different topics. I mean, in Web 2 and Web 3 as well, in the area of product management. And now I'd like to switch my knowledge to another topic connected with the subject of tokenomics, Web3 analytics. And I think this course will be very useful and reasonable for this switching process. And also I have recently almost passed the previous course of Roderick. It's called like a token sale offering or something like that, and it's really a good course. And I'd like to recommend all of your guys also to do like I have done it.
Ilya, that's great, and I can only agree. Roderick's tokenomics course is awesome. Maybe Ilya, you certainly have the link. Drop the link in the chat so that others can check it out.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, cool. Next one. We have some
That's
more.
amazing. I took it on myself not to plug my wares.
Yeah, that's why we do it.
That's very kind, Delia, and good. I recognize the name now. So bless. Thank you.
Awesome. More introductions. Paulina, would you be open to switch on your mic and say some words about yourself? What brought you here? No worries if not. Let me check. Vahid, Sinedin.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Paulina.
I started talking and I was thinking it's working, it didn't, sorry. So yeah, I'm Paulina, and what brought me here, a big passion for blockchain technology. I have like a background from finance and legal, and so I was thinking like where to go to start. So apparently I had some news, I mean, the information from actually Roderick himself, and he actually recommended me that token engineering. So it was very, very nice of him. And I was thinking it would be great way to know the subject from the background. And yeah, I would like to learn as much as possible. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Paulina, and thanks for the introduction. Great to have you on board.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's continue now with Vahid Sinedin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm walking in the street, but yeah, hi everyone. My name is Wad, and actually I'm very interested on chain analysis. It's because before I invest a lot of my money in different token, and coins. Hearing people talking about it, just go and buy it without any analysis. Doing my homework and analyze these tokens. And then I lost a lot of money. So I thought I need really a kind of a strategy. And someone told me, if you understand on-chain analysis, it's like a fundamental analysis on the traditional market. So that's why I'm here really to learn about this. Yeah.
Thanks for the introduction. Great motivation to take part. Maybe we can set up an internal competition on letting portfolios run against each other in the course of the study season. Let's see. But great to have you here. And I'm sure you learn a lot of valuable and gain a lot of valuable insights for your own investments. All right. Let's say two more. I am Richard.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Richard, and so basically, I have no background in crypto or anything related. Studied political science, and then, however, I got into crypto around 2022. I think like early 2022. Yeah, I was introduced through a friend, through Shitcoin and all those stores like that. And then eventually I realized I had this hidden passion for writing content, basically putting out everything I started learning about crypto and stuff like that. So yeah, I can say now a competent content writer, Web3 content writer. And then, but however, as I moved on, I realized aside from putting out just things I learned about, probably about protocols or whatsoever, there has to be some level of analysis, just to build a niche and then, build an authority on that particular topic that I'm trying to talk about. And then besides it, a content is quite better when it provides, insights to the readers. You are bringing up insightful analysis on things that probably they never even thought of or they never thought it existed. Yeah, so that's when I decided okay, what if with my content writing skill, with a data analytics skill, combining the two, and then I believe I could really go a long way with that. So that's when I started, developing interest in data analytics. And then, yeah, I'm actually yeah, I'm still a newbie, I'm still learning, but at least I've started learning from other sources, yeah. So I've tried to, work on a few dashboards and everything like that. But then there are still some minor, like major issues. Let me not say minor. There are still major issues, Probably there are times that, I might want to work on a particular project, then I'm like, I don't even know what question to ask to be able to, carry out this project to the next level, the kind of analytics questions, metrics, and all those things to ask depending on the kind of project that I'm working on. Yeah. So then I talked to a particular friend, I think it was yesterday, yeah. I was talking to a friend about all the issues and everything like that. So he sent me the link to this particular course, and I was like, this will really help you. So that's why I'm here.
Cool. And I'm sure you'll be able to remove a lot of the unknowns that you mentioned. So great to have you here. And the final introduction, let me check. So there are a number of others who haven't introduced themselves. We won't have the time to let everybody introduce, but let's say Mate Denish, would you introduce yourself, please? Or mate, not sure how to pronounce it, sorry. If you can switch on your mic.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, it's Mate.
Mate, okay.
So yeah, I didn't expect this. Sorry.
Sorry to caught you by surprise. Some words about yourself, what brought you here. We have met in, I think, one or two other live tracks already.
Yeah.
So just comes to mind.
So my background is in physics and philosophy, and I worked as a machine learning engineer on some medical stuff, and now I just think that with these tools, the Web3 is going to change most of a lot of things fundamentally, and I just want to be part of that.
Awesome. That's enough for an introduction, I'd say. Before we dig in, let's go to Discord. I just want to make you aware of our Discord channel. So this is our Discord, and this is track 5. So you can find it here on the Discord, track 5, on-chain analytics for token engineers. And I dropped a tiny little question that you can feel free to answer whenever you have time. So, oops, I just realized I have to put up the emojis, or you do it yourself. Introduce yourself also in the Discord channel so that we can get to know each other. And Roderick decided to drop some more questions after the lecture today. So head over to Discord after the session to answer on some funny questions. And now let's kick off the session. Roderick, let's go.
Okay.
Stage is yours.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Let me just get my thing set up. And okay, are we live?
We are live.
We're live. Okay, so we're going to kick off. In terms of setting expectations here, it's always a little hard to know, what some people think is hard or some people think is easy. In my mind, I put this course together to have a very beginner-friendly slant, as beginner-friendly as I could see it. But at the same time, there will be some deeper issues that we cover, perhaps a bit more philosophical. Mate, you might like today's lecture in particular. But just remember, if anything feels like it's too much, you don't have to absorb it all today. This is all going to be recorded. Resources and slides are going to be shared. So you really can take your time with this material if it's coming at you too fast. And if it's all stuff you've seen before, I hope there are a few sort of nuggets of, fundamental wisdom or insights here and there that might help you in your work going forward. So let's carry on. A little bit about me. We have lots to get through, but I'll say a bit more about my background. This is a multidisciplinary field, and each of us brings distinct academic training and professional experience to bear on our work, and that shapes how we think about and approach our problems. So actually understanding the background of your speakers can sometimes add some context to some of the ideas that are being presented. So my own academic background is in economics with studies through to master's level. I earned the CFA charter in 2014. Over the past year, I've sat both exams for the FRM, a professional qualification in financial risk management that's respected in banking and TradFi circles. With a little luck, I won't have to sit anymore. My professional career began at Bloomberg, where I was given ownership of long-term economic modeling of energy demand and power supply build. I then transitioned into a project finance role, tasked with creating models for successful deals involving asset portfolios valued at 400 million to $1 billion US. I then went freelance, consulting with my modeling skills for a variety of business contexts and sectors, including venture capital, private equity, financial planning and analysis for operational companies. And I credit the fact that I had to model a wide variety of businesses for giving me some ability to think flexibly and at a higher order, in a higher order way about business processes, which I think has come to help some of my economic design work. During that time, I also learned some analytics for my FP&A client, and that brought me in touch with Power Query, which has the same engine that runs Power BI, and Alteryx, which also offers some machine learning and predictive analytics capabilities. As I just said earlier, I stumbled into crypto during the pandemic and ended up working on token sales, white papers, token utility, and token economy planning that helped to get $100 million US of new capital committed to projects. I did some hands-on work with treasury management and financial planning and analysis. And after the disasters of 2022, I hear you, Zuad, which killed a lot of the things that I've been working on, not all, but most. I realized that the people I'd been working with or projects I looked up to didn't really know much at all. And I committed myself to doing better. So I built a way focusing on eating up institutional grade research, studying, networking, connecting with Token Engineering Academy, and most recently teaching myself how to do on-chain analytics with SQL and Dune, which is basically what I'm going to be sharing in this course. Just before we get on, please note I am also an active content creator on subjects related to token economics. I use that publishing to help to refine and develop my knowledge as well as to share it. So if you want to follow along with what I do there, you can connect with the channels that you can see on screen there. So today's lecture is called Analytics for Token Engineering. And while I build this as a practical course overall, this first lecture, I'm afraid, is going to be entirely theoretical in focus. And the reason why I've chosen to do that is that I think it's important to draw attention to some of the deeper issues that affect modeling in general, and to help establish understanding and motivations as to why you might want to develop and apply an analytic skill set as a token engineer. Because I get the feeling that token engineering and on-chain analytics are viewed as completely distinct and unrelated activities. And that may owe in part to the highly distinct tooling and practices typical to each of them. You can see that on screen there. And if we take the TA Fundamentals course as an example, it works you through to an exercise where you create a digital twin for a classic automated market maker in Python. And when you are looking at more advanced and sophisticated system modeling requirements and challenges, the TA community typically guides you to look at things like Token Spice or CAD. And all of these tools place an emphasis on foundational modeling, where the components of your system and how they interact are represented within a model in formal terms, so that the effects that they then have on each other are logically and mathematically determined within that model. These formal relationships then allow you to undertake a virtual exploration of the system within that model. And the emphasis is to be able to create a tool which allows you to carry out this causal and counterfactual exploration, a model that allows you to ask, what if this happens? And why does this happen? If we take a look at analytics, at first glance, it looks very different. In its simplest form, it is not counterfactual, but simply factual. It's asking what is happening or what has happened on the blockchain. It does not require you to undertake the same kind of first principles thinking in order to define your system, its parts, how they interact. We're simply trying to find out what this system actually does. There's also a contrasting sort of technical flavor to analytics work, which is immediately concerned with data as its raw material, and which benefits from being from having specialized programming languages used on it, like SQL. And furthermore, this data needs to be understood through a technical lens because it's being generated by specific coding implementations. Generated by a core blockchain protocol or a smart contract. They're not the result of a simple and elegant abstraction that we've created in Python. So in their simplest and most familiar guises, we can see that these two activities appear both conceptually and practically distinct. And I know for a fact that this creates a disconnect in some people's minds. Last year, Token Engineering Academy hosted talks at ECC, including one by Trent McConaughey exploring the power of formal modeling methods using Token Spice. And we also had Gabe Polzaretsky from Gauntlet talking about how they used on-chain data to help to decide important token allocation decisions valued in millions of dollars. And I remember one of the listeners in the audience saying that they were confused about how these two things related to each other and how they were both examples of token engineering. They seemed so different. So as we collaborate together to define this emerging field of token engineering, and as we orient ourselves as newcomers, I think there is a practical need for us to furnish ourselves with a conceptual framework that is broad enough to encompass both of these approaches to modeling and analysis, so that we have greater awareness of what we are doing with our own work and when it may be better to lean more into the resources offered by one approach or the other, as well as when understanding when they can be fruitfully combined. In fact, in this lecture, I'm going to go beyond that and argue that token engineering best practices have to make use of empirical data where that's possible, and furthermore, that the exceptional and ubiquitous importance that exchange markets have for our token economies give engineers an urgent motivation to start making use of on-chain data about those processes today. So here's the route we're going to take. We're going to begin by reviewing the purpose and goals of modeling in systems engineering. We're going to explore strengths and limitations of formal, foundational modeling methods in different system contexts. We're then going to look at how empirical methods offer us alternative tools for analysis, which mitigate some of the modeling challenges that arise in complex systems. We'll look at how blockchain systems present us with an unusual mix of traits that include high complexity as well as high control. We'll then turn our review to look at the workings of exchange markets and understand the importance they have to token economies and see why these factors create strong motivations for us to incorporate empirical data into our modeling practices. And then we will finish up by looking at a number of different ways in which we can do that. Okay, let's start with the fundamentals. What is engineering? And I guess I'm giving away my ignorance on this subject by showing you that this is still what an engineer looks like in my head. My own background, as I've told you, is in finance and economics. And for reasons we'll soon be looking at, they're concerned with systems and problems which traditionally have not been amenable to rigorous engineering analysis and practice. So I've had to do some of my own learning and thinking in this area. And I hope any experts listening will forgive me for simplifying things, to say that engineering is, in considerable part, concerned with creating goal-oriented systems. And that's consistent with what we see in Module 2 of the TA Fundamentals course, the first practical unit of that program, which begins by teaching you that the very first thing you should be doing, or among the first things, is to define your system goals. Goal-orientedness is at the very heart of what engineering is about. But there's still a little more we have to unpack here. Because this summary statement is sneaking in another important term, it's fair to ask, what do we mean by system? Well, this is what ChatGPT in all of its infinite internet wisdom thinks that a system looks like. Again, a good enough summary for our purposes is to say that a system is a collection of interacting parts that make up a whole, and within an engineering context, it is the ensemble, those parts and their interactions all together, which create and deliver this desired end goal. So creating a goal-oriented system is substantially an exercise in bringing various parts together to act and interact together so that they deliver an end goal. Now, doing that successfully requires us to have some level of understanding about these parts and how they're going to interact and affect each other, which brings us to the role of modeling. Okay, what is a model? Good enough definition again. It is a representation, in this case, a representation of a system we're trying to engineer. It often simplifies or abstracts away from extraneous detail. And they are useful to be able to explain, predict, and understand the behavior of systems. Why do we do this? Well, in an engineering context, it minimizes the need for real-world prototyping, so we reduce costs, time spent on development, and reduce the amount of resources we need to do that. We can also optimize performance and reduce risks without the dangers of doing that by trial and error in the physical world. So what makes a good model, particularly in an engineering context? Well, by definition, a model is intended to be a representation of something, so it had better bear likeness to the system we're trying to build. And hopefully it makes life easier by simplifying our problem. But we should note that this goal is subordinate to the model retaining a sufficient real likeness. And this frequently creates trade-offs. A good model will also contain details about the parts of the system that we can monitor, influence, and control, and represent important, unexcludable influences which we can't control. Also, a model needs to be able to simulate counterfactuals, create representations of events that would occur under different circumstances, but without those circumstances actually having to occur. In some sense, a model is trivially counterfactual because it is a model, not the thing. But this is still a meaningful statement because some models are better set up to give you the flexibility to explore alternative different scenarios and counterfactual possibilities effectively. So we should keep this in view. Okay, so these are some of the key points that make a good engineering model in theory. But what models can achieve in practice depends on the characteristics of the system we're trying to build. So to illustrate this, let's compare and contrast key attributes of 4 distinctive groups of systems with a focus on exploring the reach and fit that mathematical modeling offers within each one. The categories of systems we'll examine are simple physical systems, natural or living economies, human economies, and advanced digital economies. Now, these don't conform to any kind of established academic taxonomy. I've just selected them because I think that they highlight contrasting capabilities and contrasting significance for mathematics in each one. Okay, so let's kick off with simple physical systems. These are systems which are made up of simple physical or chemical parts that are governed by well-known natural and mathematical laws. Furthermore, if the system itself is simple enough for its global behavior to be derivable in a practical way with present-day computing power, with the use of models that represent the parts according to their natural laws that inherently characterize them. And so that's how I'm defining simple here. But what I wanted to draw attention to about this situation is that the mathematics we're using in this model really do bear a close and intrinsic resemblance to the actual properties of our system. So provided the system is simple enough and we're able to insulate it from any overwhelming confounding factors, we can really lean in to this mathematical modeling to explore and design our system in a virtual setting, confident that this model will give us a reliable prediction of how our system's going to behave in reality. So natural or living economies are different. While they are not products of human engineering, they are still very much goal-oriented systems. They have been developed and refined by the process of evolution by natural selection. A critical difference is that these systems are driven by the actions of living organisms. They exhibit inherent autonomy and, depending on the organism, perhaps a really broad range of possible behaviors as well. Modeling these kinds of systems often faces us with two additional challenges. First of all, the properties and behavior of key parts of the system are no longer obviously summarizable with tidy mathematical laws of nature. And secondly, the dynamics of these systems, how they change over time, can evolve in ways that are really hard to predict without repeated simulations under a fine grain of differing conditions. Now, if individual agent behaviors can be bounded, or if we're dealing with certain system characteristics which are robustly connected to strong drivers, then we can still apply foundational mathematical modeling to be able to explore and understand the system. The most well-known examples of this, I think, are those found in mathematical ecology, which uses population dynamics based on simplified assumptions about resource requirements, reproduction rates, and predator-prey interactions. And in fact, it forms the basis of one of the case studies you'll have to work through if you sign up to Block Science's CAD/CAD bootcamp course. But the conditions that make complex systems amenable to mathematical modeling may be somewhat special or restricting. More typically, mathematical formulations in these contexts represent a greater degree of abstraction and simplification, and that loosens the resemblance that the model has to our real-world systems. And that can end up being quite dangerous. Traditional economics offers us a cautionary tale of just how badly this can go wrong. Traditional economics deals with human economies, and they are living systems, but they definitely stand apart because they are so complex that they make all the previous problems we looked at a bajillion times worse. Not only do we have this unbelievable, ever evolving, open-ended human behavior to contend with now, these systems are also nested with layers and layers of subsystems, which are each incredibly complex in their own right. Currencies, central banks, currencies, regions, markets, social norms, it goes on. And if you don't want to buy into a, sorry, went too fast there. If you don't want to buy into a general skeptical argument about how these complexities limit what we can get from foundational and mathematical modeling, just consider the evidence from our good man J-Pow there. The central bank interest rate setting look anything like a precise control process to you? What about the bailouts we engineered for the great financial crisis? What's our track record on successfully managing critical issues like extreme poverty, education, unemployment, environmental sustainability? I can assure you it's not because we've been want of trying. Academic economists came up with mathematical models full of simplified assumptions about human behaviors, but they fell into a trap of believing that just because these models were mathematical, that they represented a reality. This shortcoming is very clearly etched in my memory because I was studying economics in the midst of the great financial crisis. And if you believe it, some of the most sophisticated macro models at that time simply ignored money and the financial system. They abstracted it out of the model in the name of simplicity. There was a whole slew of books and articles published at the time taking economics to task over these kind of failures. However, we don't just throw up our hands and give up trying to model human economic activity. It just matters too much. And that's kind of why we had these simple economics models to begin with, because economics developed in a world that had limited data and limited computing power. And these simple models, simple and limited as they were at some point, were the best thing we had and our only ability to get any kind of grip on important problems. Fortunately, circumstances have been changing really fast over recent decades and have been paving the way for us to use data science and analytics to analyze and manage our economic systems in new ways. These empirical methods are fundamentally different because they allow us to create models that remain relatively agnostic about the fine structure of the underlying driving processes at work in our systems. These methods instead start out by looking for reliable patterns in higher order observables that are of interest to us. And they allow us to create models of statistical relationships among them, and to compute likelihoods about how they might change going forward. However, a general drawback of this approach is that it is always reliant on data that is created by events that have already occurred without a deeper theory of how the system works. And this might mean that we may miss out on how a shift in fundamental circumstances is going to really radically alter the behavior of our system in a way that our data trained models just fail to predict. As the saying goes, using data to predict the future is like driving ahead by looking in the rear view mirror. Nevertheless, in many contexts, these foundationally agnostic approaches do offer a more tractable means for understanding and managing systems of interest, and perform better than foundational approaches do. So very quickly, just to recap the narrative so far, simple systems potentially allow us to create models with mathematics that actually bear inherent likeness to the properties of our system. As that system becomes more open and complex, the use of mathematics to model fundamental processes often relies on greater abstraction and simplification, and that increases modeling risk. If these simplifications become too great, the likeness of our models breaks down, and traditional economics gives us a clear warning of how bad that can go. However, if rich data is available, this opens up a different approach to quantitative modeling, where we do not need strong foundational assumptions, but instead leverage observed regularities in key variables of interest to explore the behavior of our system. So what kind of situation do you think we're going to encounter with the next group of systems that we're going to look at? What I'm calling advanced digital economies. Well, let me clarify this term for a start. I'm talking about economic systems that are actively mediated by digital ICT infrastructure. These are systems that present an emerging culmination of all the complexity and technological sophistication of human life. And yet, what's fascinating and perhaps surprising is that this trend relationship between the complexity of a system and the increasing limitations that bears on our ability to model it foundationally starts to kick into reverse gear. All of this new ICT infrastructure that our economies increasingly rely on are themselves well-controlled systems that are products of human engineering. So intuitively, it follows that that the economic activity that is being handled by this infrastructure now also enters into an engineer's scope of control. And this means that the system is both highly complex, but also highly controllable. And it costs us much less to prototype, change, monitor, test, scale economic processes in this digital medium than it would in the physical world. So actually, these systems present us with a really unique combination here. And these characteristics actually apply to all kinds of digitally mediated economic processes, not just blockchain. But let's not delay from dealing with that main subject any longer, and let's examine how these special characteristics present in the classic design of an automated market maker. And we'll start off with a lightning-fast recap of what an AMM is. People exist who have assets, but want different ones to the ones they have. Those who are matched by what they have and what they want could satisfy their desires by exchanging with each other, okay? But they don't know how to find each other. So what do? Well, we could create a market where they come together to buy and sell. But in the simplest market designs, we still rely on both of these people being there at the same time. One way to fix that is to create a special market participant, a market maker, who is there to buy and sell from both parties at the same at different times, earning a fee each time they do that. So an automated market maker creates a market making like role out of a bunch of simple and automatic rules. But in order for this to work, the AMM needs to have a couple of reserves filled with quantities of the tokens that it is offering to buy and sell. So where do these come from? Well, we can get them from other token holders who don't necessarily want to swap, and make it worthwhile for them to lend their tokens that way by paying them fees that the AMM collects from the swappers. This is very similar to how banks entice savers to open deposit accounts with them in exchange for receiving a rate of interest. So what's the price that we give to the next swapper? Well, the genius answer is that it depends on the amount of tokens held within each of these pools, with the instantaneous or marginal price simply being equal to the ratio of tokens in each of the two pools. And we can do all of this because smart contract technology allows us to program the protocol securely to control all the things that people can and can't do, as well as the responses that are given to valid actions. So in the context of our current discussion, I think it's the pricing mechanism of the AMM that is especially profound. Pricing in public markets has always been a mysterious thing, something that happens depending on who's there on a given day, what's happening in their lives, how they're feeling, what news is about. Yet all of these factors somehow come together to create a situation in which there is a match buyer and a match seller in the market at the same time, and a trade happens between them at a mutually agreed price. But now you can see, but in this situation, you can see that there's nothing that tells you what that price is actually going to be. And that's the way it's been for the whole of human history until now. The design of the automated market maker for the first time makes the pricing process in a public market something which is a social phenomenon, entirely mathematically explicit. And I'm not saying it's a rough approximation. The price of every swap is exactly set according to a mathematical formula that's been programmed in by human engineers. So tying this back to the journey we've been taking through all these systems, we're finding ourselves in a situation that's similar to the one we found ourselves when we were modeling physical systems. Because when we bring the AMM pricing formula into our model, once again, we're presenting a literal truth about our system, arguably even more so than when we're working with the natural laws, which are still, simplifications to some minor degree. So the use of mathematical representation to model AMM pricing does not come with any representational loss. And these stronger mathematical engineering practices, once again, credibly offer real traction to allow us to understand and explore our systems within a model's virtual setting. So this is a surprising turnaround for what we can expect to achieve with foundational modeling techniques, except that there's still one teeny tiny problem. Human beings are still in the loop. And it's true, we now have a pricing process that is fully mathematically deterministic, but that only applies at the margins of the entire process. At the end of it, what's driving that process is still the same incomprehensibly large, vast mishmash of human factors and concerns that shape who comes to trade in the market and what they want to do. The key question to consider then is, can we avoid falling into the trap that conventional economics fell into? Can these underlying driving processes be given a simple, tractable, formal representation which does not compromise the likeness of our model to the reality we want to depict? And I think this very question kind of hands a slam dunk to the case that argues for the importance of using data in any modeling, because the only way that we can answer this question is by comparing the model to real data, right? But let's be fair and even-handed. We also have to recognize that this is not always possible. At one point, there was no curve or Uniswap, right? These had to be engineered without the prior benefit, the benefit of having prior data to give us clues about how users would really act. And in many innovative token engineering briefs that you are going to be faced with, you'll have the same challenge of having to make headway without empirical data. In those situations, the only way you're going to make careful decisions is by using models that are fully assumption-driven. And what I'm going to argue for now is that exchanges are so prevalent and deeply important to our token economies that best practice modeling really does have to make use of this data in one way or another. I'm checking my Discord to check that there wasn't a message there for me. No, hold on. I've got something from Angela.
Sorry. All good?
Okay. Sorry. I was just checking that everything's great. Okay. So carrying on. Why do I claim that exchange markets are exceptionally important in almost every blockchain economy? Well, first of all, freedom of exchange is seen to be a core asset feature. It's kind of like a core product feature. This was the foundation of how the original cryptocurrencies were conceived, and it has remained fundamental to the way token standards are defined ever since. Exchange market venues leverage this fundamental feature, which allows users to exchange crypto assets for others that they prefer. And, in time, we may see expectations shift to accept limited circumstances where open exchange is restricted. Looks that way with US regulations. But for now, right now, that's not the case. And I think it's reasonable to assume that open and free exchange is regarded as an unnegotiable requirement, and that every token economy is going to be connected to and interact with a digital asset exchange venue of one kind or another. And the effect of that needs to be factored into our system modeling, because there are effects and they matter. First of all, because exchanges are where the public prices of the assets are determined and revealed. And these prices matter because they represent the price that you'd get in an open free market, where the minimal requirement for token holders to convert their value into something else is simply just showing up and being willing to sell at the prevailing market price. So these are the prices that you get for the most straightforward and immediate way of exchanging your token for something else of value. And this means that these prices are highly influential on agent behavior and the outcomes within your token economy. Most of the systems we're trying to build rely on token value so that they incentivize or compensate for some form of work or cooperation that's taking place within the system. It's practically the defining feature of these systems. Foundational reading from the TA Fundamentals course by Trent McConaughey describes blockchains as incentive machines. Now, this description can only fittingly apply if the tokens have incentivized power, i.e. value, and financial currency is the common yardstick by which value is measured and priced. Yes, we can distinguish between price and value, but ultimately it is the market prices that set the actual effective rate at which a digital asset can be converted into liquid financial instruments at short notice. So market prices exert their own influences on a token's perceived value, and that affects value-driven behaviors of the agents active within your native economy. Finally, not only do these markets matter economically and in this deeply fundamental way, but the impacts of exchange originating or exchange transmitted events upon a token economy can also be severe. Looking back at 2022, we know how devastating market volatility and contagion has been. Yes, a lot of projects were simply exposed for poor management or had their failures accelerated. But I'm sure that there were some projects that could have grown and developed into something decent if they hadn't just been wiped out by Terra and FTX. The magnitude of these very real, recurring, severely disruptive events has to be factored into our efforts to engineer in resilience and tolerance into our token economy systems. So taking all this together, we arrive at some broad conclusions. Exchange activity matters to the performance of a majority of token economy systems, and it matters to such a degree that we can't assume that our assumptions are correct in an assumption-driven model. That's just way too risky. Good modeling practice for these systems has to incorporate the use of empirical data we have about the exchange market processes in one way or another. And luckily, there's actually a number of ways in which we can do that. Perhaps the most obvious of these is historical simulation. This uses historical data directly to reproduce actual past events. For this to be interesting and not just a trivial rerun, we need to do that within a modeling framework that does detail formal relationships representing how these historical events then impact the rest of the system. This approach is simple, has a simple intuitive appeal because it allows us to take a look at how our system would behave when it's subjected to things that actually occurred in the past. But it comes with this limitation that we are representing our system as one that is entirely driven or dominated by these external events, and any feedback or consequences that would flow back into the market and how it works and what happens next are not accounted for with this method. That can be an acceptable approximation if the magnitude or a feedback is expected to be small. Think of, say, if we're small-time Bitcoin traders in a much larger Bitcoin market, what we do is unlikely to actually change what's happening much. Or if we're only studying a shorter horizon, where the butterfly effect hasn't had chance to do its thing, and if we're exploring over short horizons, perhaps we don't expect the internal system to feed back too much into the larger system. This kind of relates to the next way we can use empirical data, which is to help us with our stress testing and risk sizing. Stress testing allows us to explore how a system performs under more extreme and adverse circumstances. And we can actually do that entirely hypothetically just by running extreme parameter values through our model. But what empirical data allows us to do is to situate these stresses within a real-world context. The data gives us some bearing to ask, what are large and small events? And how frequently do events of such magnitude occur? This becomes really helpful for assessing and optimizing risk. Are we looking at an event that happens once a year or once every 1,000 years? What's the added cost of defending against extra risk? And is it worth it if it's very, very, very unlikely? In this context, we are leveraging descriptive statistics about our data to improve our systems engineering. And we can take that even further by using the data to train a stochastic model. We use the data to train or fit a stochastic process in our system representing the exchange markets. And when we do this, we now have an engine that can produce a series of events that share statistical features to the real process without being exactly the same as the real process itself. And the advantage of that is that we're no longer bound by the literal historical data to explore how this system behaves. And we can also potentially decompose risk factors into statistical parameter values, which can help us create early warning indicators or set warning thresholds and give us more precise ways of fine-tuning risk tolerances and setting up controls in our system. So depending how you set this up, the exchange process may be responsive to influences generated by other parts of our system. But you could just all out go and make sure that that's the case by retaining a fully formal model that doesn't use any empirical data directly, but simply uses empirical data as a means to check that it's working accurately, that's giving us something realistic. This is the process called validation, and it's an essential step in a data science workflow, which ends up checking how the model performs against the real world. So doing this has its advantages because we can create a model that retains a full foundational account of a system's inner workings and is able to take full account of how all the interactions feed back to affect the market, and then how that impact then feeds back to affect the system, right? And that allows us to undertake these much richer, deeper, more fine-grained counterfactual explorations of the system's behavior. And it also allows us to do to work with models which actually deliberately express foundational parts in theoretical, really simplified ways, right? Because we can then use that simplified model as a lens and look at the parameter values that correspond to a behavior we observe in the real world. So we might say only have two types of traders: traders who respond to a positive feedback rule and traders who respond to a negative feedback rule. and we could sort of like see what proportions of both of these characters we have in our economy that matches the kind of sort of statistical profile of our real world data, as an example. And then again, perhaps use that to build confidence that, if the model represents some realistic scenario, that we can then push those parameters in unusual or different directions and still learn something new. So in summary, there are lots of ways that we can use empirical data to enhance or complement our systems modeling. But what they all have in common is the need for empirical data. But we're really lucky here. We're blessed because blockchain technology gives us not only gives us deep opportunities for engineering and control, but it also offers us cheap data generation and monitoring right out of the box too. Data is at the very core of what blockchains are and how they operate. Actions on a blockchain and data are the same thing. And economic data as such is fundamentally self-reporting. This is really new and exciting. We saw earlier that economics had been held back as a science due to a historic lack of data and processing power. And even once data started becoming available, it was typically gated by monopolists who only made it available at extremely high prices. Blockchains revolutionize the economic fundamentals of data and analysis and how accessible it is to people. This is truly a new and exciting frontier for both science and engineering. That's what I truly believe. And that's why we need to learn on-chain analytics for token engineering. And the rest of this course is going to proceed by tooling you up with the basics that you need to be able to do that on Dune with the help of ChatGPT, while giving you guidance that will help to allow you to continue making your own explorations that go beyond the basic applications of this course. Final recap, just to ground it all in. Analytics and token engineering are often seen separate, but they can work together. The aim of engineering is to create a goal-oriented system. Models allow us to explore systems virtually, saving time, risk, and resources. Models need to resemble reality. Complexity can make that challenging. Empirical methods can find patterns without foundational assumptions. Digital systems, including blockchains, can be high complexity and high control, which is interesting and unusual. Mathematical representation is lossless in some areas of these systems, but still highly simplifying in others. Exchanges are highly important and economically significant. We need to capitalize on exchange data to understand them and model them better. And then finally, data can be used in lots of ways with a validation of fully formal models still being possible. So that's a wrap for today. And it's over to you guys for questions.
Right. This was quite a comprehensive summary of why on-chain analytics is so relevant in token engineering. Thanks for sharing these thoughts, Roderick. That's amazing. I wonder if you guys have any comments here. I mean, maybe you've thought about the relevance of on-chain analytics for your token engineering cases already, or you've have been missing skills to add this to gain insights on certain experiments and simulation cases. What are your thoughts here? Feel free to drop notes in the chat or just switch on your mic. Again, no stupid questions.
Shall I stop sharing so that things can, there you go. I always worry when I hear the silence.
Yeah.
Hey, Roderick, can you hear me?
Oh, there's a lot, right?
Hey,
yeah, you're live.
We can hear you.
Speaking, please.
Yeah, I'm speaking. Hey, man.
Hey,
I
Tiago.
didn't get a chance. Yeah, I didn't get the chance to present myself, but yeah, I wanted to first of all congratulate you. Like, this was a really great session. It's not something new for you. I was in ECC last year on token valuations, and I also felt like you were really doing something. Like, you have that skill. You got the thing for doing these kind of presentations. You got the knowledge. So yeah, man, I'm really happy to see you doing this again. My
much,
focus will be on the. You were focusing on AMMs precisely. You were mentioning how AMMs are changing the way we are seeing price fluctuations and how it's external information now. Will this be the scope of this course? Will be focused on AMMs, or how are we going to analyze further throughout the course?
Yeah. So yes is the short answer. We're going to be focused on Uniswap v2 because, like I said, I conceived of this as an introductory course, and the Uniswap the original protocol. I don't know the full history, so if there's someone who did the same thing a little bit more elegantly or differently, I don't know. But from what I've seen, it's just such an elegant design, and it's really easy to get your head around. What we might do, there's a fourth session at the end, and I've sort of left that open. But one of the options we have is to start looking at Uniswap v3, and Uniswap v3 is a bit mean. It's really cool, but the implementation and the way you have to think your way around the data is a challenge, and I enjoyed taking that on. So it will entirely be focused on AMMs and possibly just Uniswap v2, v3. My motivation for that is that they're simply the most important and economically relevant protocols out there. I forgot to look up how much value they pull through each day, but we know it's a lot. And in terms of market share, it's still a leader by a huge margin. And thinking about this a little further, something I didn't talk about, it isn't just that these. What was amazing about the decentralized exchange is that it gave you a decentralized, a permissionless way to create a market. You no longer had to go to a centralized exchange to get approval and from a centralized party. You could just build something and have a venue. And so they remain like really important organs in the token economy to fundraise with a token sale, to provide some liquidity, perhaps before they get picked up by a larger exchange. So in a sense, it's limited on a particular subject, but it's a really important subject to be focused on. So yeah, that's going to be the scope for the rest of the course.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna pick it up and then use it later as well for other tracks.
Cool.
Kind of useful. Thank you.
Cool, thanks, Thiago, for your question. And Adit raised another one in the chat. Adit, let us know if you'd like to switch on your mic or if I should read it out. I stop for a moment and give you some time. Okay, I'll read it out then. Adit's question is about why GPT in the context of on-chain analytics. I haven't really thought about using GPT for this, though I've used it for explaining white papers. On-chain analytics is a headache if there's no Dune dashboard or ready-made data, and you have to pull data from Block Explorer. So this is an interesting use case for GPT.
Okay, so this is the spoiler. This is spoiler. I mean, I'm going to say it. Dune tried demoing a feature of an AI agent, so you could ask it questions and it would do things for you. And I tried this out, and I was not impressed by it at all. I'm sure it will get better, but the initial thing they rolled out and tried was not that good. And it is, I mean, we'll get to a point where we actually train ChatGPT on data, on specific data, and it will be able to just execute questions for us. But the way I'm going to use ChatGPT is slightly different. So I do some coding, but it's not been my bread and butter in my professional life. And sometimes I think, oh my God, like I still get intimidated by the thought of having to learn a new programming language or something. But I was, I knew I needed the skill set, the kind of questions, the way I wanted to show up for my work. It just was not going to be acceptable for me to just sort of say, well, hypothetically it's going to be this. I want to know. I want to be able to tell people. So I went on with this, and the way I've been using ChatGPT is by saying, hey, so I have some data in table A and table B, and I've got some column in this. How do I mash these two columns together and sum up the totals by day? And then ChatGPT just spits out the code for me. It just gives it to me. I'm flabbergasted. ChatGPT is like having the most forgiving and available senior and the most tireless underling in your control at the same time. Like, there's no question too stupid, and you can't ask them to do things too many times. It just keeps on giving. So the way I'm going to teach you, the reason why I'm taking quite a fundamental approach in some ways, and tomorrow, it will be practical. Sorry, the next session will be practical, but we're still going to be getting into the weeds of the data. Is that I'm going to teach you how to create questions that ChatGPT understands. And for you to do that, the current ChatGPT, and for you to be able to do that, you need to understand the data for yourself. And to be frank, this work can become quite complex quite quickly. So you should have, to do it properly, you should have a fundamental understanding of the data. There are no shortcuts. Well, there is a shortcut. The shortcut is not having to spend hours on Substack. What is it called? I forgot. Not Substack. These internet forums where you look up the code and try and find a precise answer, or you spend ages trying to find like a little comma that you left out of your code. Why do you have to spend an hour looking for your comma in your code? How is that making you a better person? It's rubbish. Just get ChatGPT to tell you there's a comma in line 50 that you forgot or you didn't put in. It's amazing. It's changed. I can't. Anyway, I won't get too emotional. This is the way we're going to use ChatGPT.
Sounds great. Thank you, Roderick. And Victor also raised his hand. Victor, can you switch on your mic?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes.
You're live.
Well, basically, I just also wanted to echo what Thiago just said, because it's really funny. I watched all your YouTube videos, and that introduced me to Messari and DeFi Lam and Artemis, and you have obviously a talent to do this. It's a very pedagogical way that somehow makes it very easy to understand. And so actually, I wanted to kind of just ask something also in line with what was asked before. I just started recently, actually. I'm very new to all of this, and what my challenge still is, and me coming more from somebody who is very critical about data in general, and so is always looking for how do they actually get this data, how do they curate the data, also long term, and I know in your videos you also kind of look into the documentation. That was very helpful. But for me, where my gap still exists, I think, is really how to kind of get from the actual usage of smart contracts, how to get to the actual on-chain data. When I go on, I don't know, Artemis, I kind of have to accept how they do this, what they do. But then I would love to kind of I don't know if this part of this course, and it's kind of part of my question, if we actually really kind of look into the magic behind or underneath the hood. And if not, then I would love to have a couple of comments from your sides to see what would be good courses or something that you could recommend. Thank you.
Sure. I'm so happy you asked this question, because I was literally drafting this today for the next session. I was scratching my head and saying, am I going off piste here? Is this too much? Should I not just be staying in Dune? But I will be dealing with, I am dealing with these issues, because as you understand, as you just articulated, it's super important. Anyway, just giving you a preview, on-chain analytics is actually a broad term from a technical perspective. And it applies to any data that has come from a blockchain, essentially. But what it matters, how the data initially exists in a certain form, and then sometimes things are done to it, because to get value out of this data, you often have to do a lot of stuff to it, and that's essentially the value that SQL offers us, is the ability to sort of munch and squidge and recombine and do all kinds of cool stuff with the data. But when you're starting out, and if you are a serious analyst, you want to see the data lineage. You want to see where it's come from, and you want to have some measure of confidence that the data is real. Look, at some point, I'm going to have to say I'm not a cryptographer, so I don't understand how a blockchain works really. But hey, there's millions upon millions of people who are trusting this data, so there must be something real to at some level something's real here. And then there are things you can do. You cross-reference the data you're getting out on different platforms. You see you're recreating charts on Uniswap, on Dune, and this gives you confidence that hey, this stuff actually really works. It's amazing. So we'll touch on the topic lightly, but it won't be a core part. But actually, in Dune, we will be dealing with it a bit hands-on, because there is a clear sort of distinction between untampered data, filtered data, and data that's been processed a little bit more. So great question. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have some 5 minutes left for final questions. Anything else you would want to know?
Just another come-up question, because you referenced, well, how ChatGPT was wonderful. Are we gonna? I don't know if it's gonna be covered throughout the rest of the course, but like, are we gonna use any other plugins on ChatGPT? Are you recommending any of them?
I haven't played around with the ecosystem. I don't know what's available. I'm going to be using the latest one just because I have a paid version and want it to be as secure and safe as possible. Like I said, the way I've conceived of this course is kind of like using ChatGPT to help you do the real thorough work you should be doing without ChatGPT. And for that kind of, the version of ChatGPT is entirely sufficient. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I knew more about the ecosystem, we could do more things. But the aim is really to get you to do the real work and use ChatGPT as a helper along the way.
Yeah, and I must say the course is definitely a great opportunity to collect good GPTs for programming purposes, for Python or SQL. So I guess we'll have the chance to exchange more tools that might be of great help in the context of on-chain analytics beyond ChatGPT.
I'm all ears if you guys have suggestions, please.
Cool. Pierre, thanks for the
question.
note. Sorry, just wanted to comment. Pierre just dropped a note on great resource for understanding blockchain data to the chat. Check it out, everyone. Thanks for sharing, Pierre. Thiago, sorry, go ahead.
DRDBMS, the management system for this SQL is PostgreSQL, right? The same as Dune.
Okay. We're gonna touch on this. It's actually Trino SQL, and there is one way in which that's meaningfully different. You kind of have to think your way around the code a certain way. I'm very glad again. This is like, oh, am I going to be too technical? There's a very slight difference and an important one, and we'll cover that in the next lecture.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I mean, everybody's getting excited for the next session. Let me just give you a reminder. We'll meet again this Thursday, half an hour later than today. And the Study Season Information Hub, let me drop the link in a second to the chat again, provides also some material to get yourself ready, some preparational courses, and check it out and start learning right away. And we'll meet for a live session again this Thursday in 3 days. And I'm very much looking forward to it, to continue the discussion. And again, don't forget, we are on Discord, track 5, sorry. Yeah, happy to continue the conversation there as well. Right now. See you there.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone, for today. See you on Thursday.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.
The recording has stopped.